My name is Belinda Pennenberg, and I'm a housing counselor here at NeighborWorks. As a housing counselor, I teach homebuyer education class. There's quite a bit of content in there in the class, and I think it's a really good guide, especially prior to starting the whole process and when you're purchasing a home. Just because there's a lot of information there, knowing about your rights as a homeowner throughout the process. Just getting familiar with the process in the lending area, working with a realtor, budgeting, making sure that you have the savings in order to purchase the home. One of the other things that I do is help with the needs of those who have a need for down payment and closing cost assistance. So those who are eligible, having gone through the class, they're eligible for receiving down payment and closing cost assistance. There's a number of different programs that are available, each with terms of its own. I think that's a big part of what I do. I love doing it because it's neat to see people go through the process and seeing that they're able to achieve their main goal of purchasing a home, and very rewarding experience to guide them throughout that whole process. When you apply for a mortgage, usually a pre-approval, it depends on the lender, but that timing can vary. But as far as when you are able, how soon you're able to move into the home, usually from the time that you write an offer to purchase, usually on average 30 to 45 days before you're actually in the home. For those who are wanting to save money for the purchase of a home, there's a lot of different ways to approach that, but the best thing that you can do is start saving months, at least 6 to 12 months before you're thinking about purchasing a home. There are some expenses to it. Even if you are using down payment and closing cost assistance, you're still going to be investing some money into it. But as far as a homeowner, the recommended amount of savings is going to be minimally 1% of the purchase price. So that's something that you should think about. We discussed that in class as well, breaking that down, what that actually looks like for you, dependent on how often you get paid, if it's weekly or bi-weekly, break that down, because that's an important piece of becoming a homeowner is saving for maintenance and repairs, because that's something that's really not avoidable. Those types of things are going to come up eventually, whether it's 1 month after you purchase the home and you're living in the property, or a year later. Eventually those things come up, and you'll need to have some savings for that.
My position, I am a consumer credit counselor with a nonprofit financial information and service center. We're a program of Goodwill, North Central Wisconsin. In my position, I work with people to help them to look at their entire financial picture. This has been around, I'm going to say, about 20 years. I don't know exactly when it started. And it started with, it was in one of the buildings at Catholic Charities, and about 12 or 13 years ago they went under the umbrella of Goodwill, and Catholic Charities continued to have their own. So we do essentially the same work. We also have a payee program, so people that are either required or choose to have someone handle their finances can come to us. The fee is about $40. I'm going to say $40 a month. I don't know exactly if that's the fee or not these days. But we're going to develop a budget and pay priority bills so people don't lose their housing, so that they have food to eat. So they'll pay the utilities, the housing, and then save some money for clothing if the money is available, but they will pay the bills, making sure everything's paid on time every month. 3 things they should know about. Always spend less than you make. You have to establish good credit. You have to have good credit. Pay your bills in full, on time, all the time.
Presentation has been entirely volunteer-driven in cooperation with NeighborWorks Green Bay and the Green Bay Neighborhood Leadership Council. NeighborWorks Green Bay engages in the community to promote home ownership and provide housing choices. It strengthens neighborhoods and enhances neighborhood character in Green Bay's original neighborhoods. By building a better Green Bay, NeighborWorks Green Bay creates a stronger, more vibrant community for all of Brown County. We appreciate you all coming out tonight. You all should have packets in front of you. There should be as I indicated before, there is a raffle that has the small slip of paper. And there was also a form to fill out before we get started, which I hope you all had a chance to look at. I was also notified that both PowerPoint presentations that will be done this evening will be available. There will be a sign-up sheet going around during the presentation. First things first, we'll start out with Eileen. Eileen Hermes-Gosen is been very kind to join us tonight, and I will let her introduce where she's from and what she does, and go from there. Thanks.
My name is Eileen Hermes-Gosen, as she said. I'm with FISC, Financial Information Service Center. We're a program of Goodwill Industries in north central Wisconsin. So most people think of Goodwill and they think of our stores, and they might be shopping in the stores. But whenever things are donated and the money that's generated in those stores goes to 24 different programs, and FISC is one of them. We wouldn't be able to operate without the support of Goodwill. We're also a member of the National Accreditation on Counseling and Counseling COA, another organization. So we're overseen by a number of national organizations. We're going to talk tonight about, really what you spend and what you save. And Benjamin Franklin here said, always spend less than you make. That's the only way we're going to get ahead. Money Smart Week was in April. It's a week that is dedicated to various financial education programs throughout the nation. We're part of the Chicago-based Money Smart Week, and we had a variety of programs at the library. NeighborWorks did some. There was a tour of affordable homes. So a variety of programs went on. So smart money moves for smart people. So we all make spending choices. We have limited resources. Like, we only have so much money. There's only so much money to go around. But we have virtually unlimited spending choices. As the cartoon says, pray tell what lucky creditor gets paid this month. So our circle exercise is really looking at, we have a circle. Where do we spend, what do we spend money on every month? What kind of things?
Groceries.
Gas.
Mortgage. Gas. Utilities. Mortgage. Utilities.
Insurance.
Children. Oh, yeah. Lots. I missed somebody else's.
Insurance.
Insurance, yep. Other things?
Cars.
Yeah.
Cell phone. Rent.
Rent.
Charities.
What?
Charities.
Donate. challenges us with unexpected expenses, such as the appliances quit. Anybody have a washer or a dryer breakdown at the worst times and you're in a hurry? Our cars need repairs. Children, somebody got that one, expect extra expenses. There's vision or chiropractic, medical, accidents or significant illnesses. Dental work or braces. Braces, I think someone recently told me it was like $5,000 for braces for a child. You know, that, and if you have 2 or 3 children, that's a lot of ka-ching. Medical procedures, co-pays, deductibles, and out-of-pocket expenses. The overuse of credit cards, or using them because you can't afford to not use them. Car or homeowners insurance bills, seasonal and occasional expenses. So some common financial challenges when we're in our 20s or 30s. Student loans, any student loans in here? Yeah. Buying and affording a home. Expenses of children being born. You know, diapers, when I work with someone with diapers, and children's expenses is like $100 a month. Formula. So childcare can be $300 to $400 a week. That would be a reasonable amount. Usually it's, I'm working with some people with $1,700 to $2,100 a month for childcare. In your 30s and your 40s, we have expenses for our children's camps, activities, travel. Traveling sports have become very popular, and that can be literally hundreds of dollars a month. Saving for college. That nagging thought that I should be saving for retirement. And then the opportunities for family activities and travel. We want to take the kids and show them some of the national parks and do some traveling. When we're in our 40s and 50s, college expenses. The FAFSA says our expected family contribution is how much? Retirement is on your mind, but and you really have to start to save more aggressively. Wedding expenses. Anybody have any idea what the average cost of a wedding is today?
15 grand.
30, 25.
Closer to 30. And that's in our area, not in other parts of the country. Some people might be becoming part of that sandwich generation where you're caring for your children and you're caring for your aging parents. So regardless of where you are in life, we have to find the means to save today for the sake of future benefits. So ask yourself, what's coming up in my life that I want to save money for? Anybody have things they want to save money for?
Yeah.
What?
Bathroom renovation. Bathroom renovation.
Okay. What else? Traveling.
College fund.
College.
Retirement.
Retirement, good. So one of the things we recommend is to identify a monthly amount to save for those events. And acknowledging coming events and preparing for them, because that will equal a peace of mind. So planners recommend being a smart user of credit. What is credit?
Trusting others, trusting you with money.
With lending you money, yes. What else?
Paying it back.
Paying it back, yeah. So credit is really borrowing money. We recommend following a written budget. We're going to talk about that. Always spend less than you make and save some. Recognize that we all have choices. So plan to spend your money on what you value the most. One of us might, for some of us it might be, saving money for retirement is more important to me than buying a house. For someone else it's, I want my children to have a wonderful Christmas and I'm going to spend hundreds or thousands of dollars on it. Where someone else may say, I want to take the kids to, Grand Canyon or wherever it is, and that's more important to them. And each of us has have our own finances and we have our own goals and wants and needs. So you really have to plan to spend your money on what you value the most. One of the vital things is to have an emergency fund. How much do you think we should have in an emergency fund?
8 months.
3 months.
3 months, 8 months? We recommend 3 to 6 months, ideally 6 months. Some people will say 8 or 12 months. And you know, and this is of your net income, what you actually bring home. So if you bring home $3,000 a month, we're starting at $9,000 and going up to 18. Does that seem doable? And so you have to start small. And when I work with folks doing budgeting and credit counseling, I want them to start with a reasonable amount, and we probably have to work up with that, because most people that come to see me have absolutely no savings. So we're going to set a limit of $400 or $500, depending on what, you know, for someone who's quite low income. And then we'll work up from there. So be smart about using credit, or it can really become a challenge. So using your credit wisely, having 1 to 2 credit cards, and paying your bills on time. Credit cards aren't the only credit that's out there. What else? What other kinds of credit are there? Homes, cars, other kinds of loans, payday loans. Ouch. But what's important is, if you took nothing away other than this away tonight, pay your bills in full, on time, all the time. In full, on time, all the time. That's what you're going to do to improve your credit. Now, it's recommended no one ever needs more than 1 or 2 credit cards. And part of your credit score is based on how much credit is available and how much you're using. So if you have $3,000 of credit available, you should never use more than 1/3. So you should never go over $1,000. If you get $30,000, you never want to go over $10,000. The other side of that is, can you pay it off in full every month? So if I'm using a credit card, can I pay that in full every month? If you can't make twice the minimum payment on your credit card bills, on your debts, you need help, and you really need help looking at where you're at. Attitudes have changed. So 20 years ago, I can afford it. I have cash. Today, I can afford it, the minimum payments. Pawn shops were really places of last resorts, and pawn shops are almost mainstream, and our TV stars are promoting them. Most businesses were reluctant to lend to people with bad credit, and payday loans were almost, unheard of and very rare. And today, businesses target people with lower credit scores. Payday loans are very common and expensive. Anybody have an idea of what the interest rate is?
500%.
500? I had one that was 3,001% for a payday loan.
Annually?
Yes. They took out a 100, that was one of 17 this gentleman had.
Holy.
He had over $35,000 in payday loans and credit card debt.
Is he sleeping under a bridge?
No, he is not. Fortunately, he came to me before, and we were able to work out a combination of different repayment plans to get him beyond that. Credit access was really limited, and today credit is more accessible. It got cut back, and belts were tightened in 2008 and 2010 when the economy crashed. But it's becoming more available again and more accessible. Understand where your money's going. If I asked you, how much money did you make last month? And you told me $1,000, could you tell me where every penny of that went? If you got, you asked for $20 cash when you got your groceries, could you figure out where that $20 went 2 days later? Most of us can't. So tracking is really important. And in your packages, I have a tracking sheet that looks like this. And we'll talk more about it later, but this is an an example of tracking. But whether you use this or whether you use a notebook, however you do it, some people will create their own Excel spreadsheets and do it out. Tracking is vital to see where are you really spending your money, and most tracking is for face-to-face transactions. Where we go to the grocery store, we go to the movies, we go buy things. So those are gonna be things we're gonna track. We often spend more than we think. So if you're using a debit card, a credit card, a check, you're likely to spend 15 to 20% more than if you're using cash. Tracking helps us understand what we're really spending and to modify our choices, because when you know where your money's going, you can choose where you want it to go. Is the bank somewhere other than where you do your typical banking, so that you can't just quickly transfer it or real easily? It's easier these days than it was 5 or 10 years ago, but maybe an online bank where you have to go through a few more steps to get the money out. We recommend 3 to 6 months. So don't just dream, have a specific time frame and a dollar amount. So the home repairs.
Sorry, is it 3 to 6 months of what you bring home or what you make?
Bring
There's
home,
there's
net.
quite a difference.
Yes, net.
Okay, thank
Because
you.
that's what you actually have to spend. So that's what, as you're saving it, and it would be able to supplement it.
Okay.
So in how many months, so for example, I need, my car insurance is $600 a year. So in 12 months, I need to save $50 for my insurance, for my car insurance. So list your goals. Write your goals down. If you write things down, you're much more likely to achieve them. Have a dream board. It might be, here's the pictures, and I'm gonna paste them around the house. What is it that I really want? What are your goals? When I'm working with couples, I ask them to each do it separately, because your goals, my goals, my husband's goals may not be the same as what our partners are. Then list them from 1 to 5. When you talk about them to the other person, really listen respectfully. And then you have to compromise and prioritize. So one might want a new car and the other one wants the bathroom remodeled, or we need to get this stuff ready for the new baby. And then list your top couple of goals. Sub-accounts can really be helpful. So many people have a checking and a savings account, but they might have a sub-account for your car repair fund, car replacement fund, wedding fund, vacations, your dream vacation, your dream or your goal. What is that? Credit unions are especially good for this. If anybody has questions, don't be afraid to holler.
The subject came up, what's better, a bank or a credit union when it comes to those kinds of things?
Okay? Well, banks can be state, local, state, national. They are usually owned, privately owned, and so they're in business to make a profit for the people that own it. Credit unions typically are public, they're owned by its members, and so you can sometimes get better rates. We have a couple of different accounts, a credit union and a bank. I had about $600 in 2 different accounts, one at a bank and one at a credit union. I made 1 cent interest in one of them in a month, and the other one made 96 cents of interest. Where would you go?
96.
Which one do you think was which?
Credit union.
So credit unions I like because the sub-accounts, they'll allow you make 1 deposit and they'll separate it into all of those. Some banks will do the same thing. But banks can also sometimes offer better rates on home loans. So you really have to shop around when it's time to do that. And are you touching on that today?
I'm sorry,
Are you gonna touch on?
You really need to shop around because
Yeah.
you're gonna find that not all credit unions are necessarily the most economical to do business with. Depends on what type of an account you're looking for, you really need to shop them. And you'll find that sometimes banks have better savings rates, sometimes they don't, but it's not universally with credit unions necessarily. Depending on what type of account you need, you really need to shop. Whether it be for a loan or for a savings account.
Call your bank or credit union, tell them you wanna have separate savings accounts for your vacation, your car repair. Ask if they have sub-accounts. Automate your savings. So, if you only go into one account, have it set up so that it's automatic, it's gonna hit your checking or your savings account and it's gonna go automatically into those other accounts. You have to treat money as a high priority. Has anyone heard the terms pay yourself first? Ideally, we say 10% of your income, your take-home pay should automatically go into savings and pay yourself first. So for example, $50 on the 15th of the month to the emergency fund, and enter the savings amount in your budget worksheet. I have a worksheet in here also, and the very first thing is emergency savings. So as you're finding money, substitute less expensive activities. Instead of dinner out 4 times a month, eat out twice and save the difference. Or consider carry out. Consider eating from the deli. And the bottom line is making your food at home and maybe having a potluck with some of the neighbors. Carry snacks, soda, and coffee from home. The latte factor. If you spend $5 a day times 5 days a week, that's $25 a week times 4 weeks a month. Now we're at $100 a month times 12, that's $1,200 a year. How much is that bathroom remodel project going to cost? But, and I use this also, a lot of people, smoking can be even more expensive. So, looking at, here's a pack of cigarettes and it's $7, so that's 35 cents for every cigarette you smoke. And in some cases, I'll say every time you smoke one, you have to put 25 cents in your bank, in this bank. And you can't use that money for cigarettes. But after a while, it's like, oh my, how much have I saved? Skip the drive-through and ask for a better deal from your cable, your cell phone, your internet, and your telephone providers. Sometimes just calling and saying, hey, can you do better than this?
What we just did.
And did it work?
Yeah.
And what did it go from to?
Well, we're paying $15 a month, plus they threw in, upgrade us 2 packages for everything.
Okay. So in a year, though, you have to watch how far it's going to go up and call again.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm proud of you. Finding money number 2. Unplug unused appliances. Call your insurance agent or call around and check into other agencies for your insurance. They're expecting you to be a loyal customer, but that doesn't mean that somewhere else isn't going to give you a better deal on insurance. And if you have packages, so you buy your homeowners and your car insurance or rental and car insurance from the same company, usually you'll get a discount that can be like 10 to 15%. Pay down on credit card debt. What's the average interest on a credit card?
17?
17, I heard?
29%.
Most retail credit cards are 29.99%. Kohl's, Target, any of those. So that's 30 cents out of every dollar you repay. That's just going to interest if you don't pay it off in full every month. Pay down installment debt. This might be student loans, it might be credit cards, it might be a car payment. Not credit cards aren't an installment, I'm sorry. Car payments, it might be a home equity line of credit. Always grocery shop with a list and use cash. Mix in some store brands. expensive places to shop. Now, if you go to Cops or Festival and you're just shopping their specials, that can be very good. But overall, if you're buying from Woodman's or Aldi's, that's gonna be your cheapest breadbasket. Have only one car payment at a time, and when your car payment's paid off, keep paying that into your savings account. Save for your next one. Buy less house than you're qualified to buy. They're gonna talk about that a little later. When you're buying appliances or electronics, ask about discounts or discontinued models, maybe even scratch and dent. Sometimes they're on the side of a refrigerator or a dishwasher, and it's gonna go into the cupboards anyway. So you can get quite a deal doing that. Other purchases, think about options. Is this item available somewhere else, maybe for less? Make sure you save for fun and future bills. Anticipate your future expenses and bills and put the money aside in savings. So what would some of those be? Future bills.
Insurance.
Insurance, very good.
Funeral.
A funeral? Well, you know, some people do that.
Healthcare.
Healthcare? Well, Christmas. We have Christmas and birthdays come every year if you celebrate them. So those are future expenses. Vacations, you know, if you want to take a vacation, you know, I also look at if somebody comes in and tells me they have a $1,500 deductible every year. I want to look at how much do we have to set aside every month so that they can meet that deductible. Yes, if there really is a crisis. I mean, it might be that you're only going in for your annual physical, and that should be covered. But you know, you were one of the kids breaks their arm, and you have to go in. You have an emergency room visit. I had one in January, and I got 6 bills because of that one visit to the emergency room. And they like kept coming, and I'm like, seems ridiculous, but it happened. Have a simple budget or a plan. We like to call it a spending plan because it's how you plan to spend your money. So this monthly expense worksheet, it will ask you to, on here, project all expenses. When somebody comes in and we do an intake form, it has about 25 or 30 items on it. This will have about 72. And so when I go through this, I'm going to ask you, you have cable TV? What does it include? Cell phones? How many cell phones are you paying for? Is anybody else contributing to that? And you know, I'll also go into some things about home ownership or rental, but I know that we're going to cover that later. Some ways to project your expenses is you can look in your checkbook register. So if you've documented things, when you used your debit card or if you wrote out checks, you might have wrote that this was for rent and this is for Christmas gifts and this was a wedding shower. You can look at your past bills and your past credit card statements. Use tracking to help you better understand. And again, this is a tracking sheet and looking at, typically tracking is face-to-face expenses, like when you go to the grocery store, you go out to eat, you get something out of the vending machines at work, you drop money in the red kettle at Christmas time, you're buying clothing, or pets. You know, pets have come to be very expensive. And you don't realize, the kids come home from school and say there's a field trip, and I need this for my field trip, and I need this for school, and all of those things add up. Include a monthly amount for occasional expenses like car insurance, dollars for occasional expenses into savings. Now list all of your debt payments. Hopefully there's not many. Complete all of the categories that apply to you, but don't eliminate all of the funds. So sometimes they have folks that come in and there's nothing for entertainment, there's nothing for vacation, and it's like, we can't do that. And you know, I really will encourage them to look at what are the 3 activities that are going on. What do you like to do? I was talking to Roshan back there earlier and about service learning and, trying to find out what do they like to do so I can direct them to activities that might be available at little or no cost. Compare your income and expenses. So here's my income and here's my expenses. Do they balance? Is there a surplus or a deficit? If there's a deficit, we have to either decrease expenses or increase our income. To get ahead, spend less than you make. So this was another example of an expense worksheet. So, the spending plan. Use cash envelopes. So the first category right here is cash. So, from this worksheet, there's a column that has check marks, then there's S's and there's C's. So the check marks mean we're going to pay for these out of our checking account. The C's mean they should be paid cash. And the S's mean we put it into savings until we need it, and then we take it out as savings. So use cash envelopes. The envelopes equal boundaries. So if you have $25 every pay period in an envelope for entertainment, and you want to go to the movies and it's going to cost you $40, it means you have to wait till the next pay period so you can go to the movies because you don't have enough money. You restock the envelopes every payday. Put and take savings are for future bills. By anticipating the future bills and savings, we really eliminate a lot of stress. Save for future funds like vacation and Christmas. For gifts like birthdays, anniversaries. Save for all those curveballs. Savings are really a mental boundary, and we really think twice about spending the money. You can't rob from envelopes. So if the gas envelope has money and the entertainment envelope doesn't have any, you can't rob from them. And when you run out of money, you have to stop spending until you can restock the envelope at the next payday. Use your checking account only to pay bills. So this means no debit card attached to that checking account. So this is another version of a spending plan. I just prefer this one. By the inch, by the yard it's hard, by the inch it's a cinch. Make small changes. We're not going to have that, $9,000 to $18,000 tomorrow because we don't make that much. But when we start by, $500 and $500, and we start putting money aside for the future saving or the future expenses, that way if there's really an emergency and you have put and take savings away, you can borrow the money from yourself. So maybe you use a credit card, but you have some savings that you can pay that credit card off with. Keep it simple. Use simple tools like automatic savings and sub-accounts. Try envelopes and the put and take savings. Share and celebrate your progress. We have the Power of Money workshop. We're certified FISC counselors, and that's our website. Anybody have questions or things I can answer?
No. I need my credit card paid, bills and those checks in there, 15 months, 0% interest. Ever that you use it in that, you didn't pay it all off, so when the interest.
If you know you're going to be able to pay it off, what are you using the money for? Are you using it to pay off another credit card, and you're just rolling it over, or are you using it to pay car repairs?
Like, maybe, unexpected, say, put in like a medical bill. Well, not actually medical bill. Yeah, probably get under credit card or something, with a higher interest.
Well, in some,
My daughter, her arm is okay.
okay, medical typically will not charge you any interest, but most medical debt they want paid within 12 months. So if you take, here's how much much I owe, and I spread it over 12 months, they wanna be paid. And they want a payment every 30 days. So not 45 days, they want a payment every 30 days. So even if you can't pay it off within 12 months, if they get a payment every 30 days, they're probably not gonna send you to collection.
Oh, they did. Let's take care of the money.
Okay, usually they will not. But to roll the money over, unless you know, there's a
Yeah, I
really
have it, and I
legitimate
don't
reason,
use
I
my credit
rarely
card.
recommend that.
I don't know, use this credit card.
One of the things my husband and I did, because we can't keep our money, our hands out of our savings, when we have a summer place and we even did it for vacation, instead of
Well, you're right.
putting that money
If we're
back
aware
where
of
we
that,
can
we
get
just
it, don't wanna get our hands on it.
Well, the other one, if you put it in a 12-month CD or whatever, that would work too. Other questions?
If you have a small emergency fund, are you better to grow that emergency fund or pay off high interest debt like credit card?
I recommend paying off high interest credit card debt first. I
Okay.
want you to have a little bit of an emergency fund and get rid of the debt. Because if the emergency fund might be giving you 1/8 of 1% and you're paying 29% on a credit card, what makes more sense?
Yeah, but if my car insurance, and my whole, yeah, my car insurance takes off monthly. Or.
You have to look at it. You know, usually they'll give you a statement saying, this is what it is for 6 months or 12 months. So if they're not charging you fees for paying it every month, most places charge you fees for paying it every month, yes. And I've seen them as high as $22 a month just to be able to pay it monthly. So you have to know what you're doing. You know,
I'll bear for those.
check it out.
Can you just go back to the last slide? I just wanted to check the website.
I'm at Fisk, I'm in the Green Bay office, we have offices in Sturgeon Bay, Menasha, Oshkosh, and Alpaca. Catholic Charities does some of the same kind of things that we do, as far as credit counseling. So there's a variety of opportunities, and I know you do some budgeting, correct?
Yes.
I do so broad, I don't, not sure. We also have other services that account, so, debt management plans, so somebody that has a lot of credit card debt, we help you to look. So we really have a variety of services that we offer.
How do you, like you were telling her the insurance, if you pay monthly car insurance, you generally get paid. So you're saying set aside an account so you can pay that either every 6 months or a year. How do you start that but still keep paying your insurance?
Okay, again, the spending plan, because you're setting money aside for things like clothing. You know, we don't buy, most of us don't buy clothing every month. I mean, and when I'll get real detailed, okay, what do you spend on undergarments? I mean, people don't think about that. So most of us, it's the most, for women, it's the most, they're just ungodly expensive. So what do you spend on shoes? And you know, somebody tells me they have 3 children and they're in soccer and baseball and, track, and so it's like, okay, they need shoes for this and this and this, and where are you buying the shoes? And here's $150, $150, $450 just for their shoes. Those are their sports shoes, they're not the regular shoes. So I'll get real detailed with people, and or there's wedding coming up that you're standing. So a lot of it is in listening and really paying attention to what your needs are and what you're doing, what's happening in your life, and choosing. Is this where I want to spend my money? Many years ago, I bought my house and I didn't have a couch for like 17 months, and I finally found one, and it was $1,700. And I thought, well, if I keep this couch for 20 years, it's going to be 25 cents a day. Well, it's how many years? Bought it in 2000, so it's 15 years old, and I still love the couch, and it's still in very good shape. But that's how I had to rationalize it for me. But I loved the couch then, and I still love the couch now. So what is it that's important to you? My car is 15 years old. I'm hoping it's lasting another 10 years. But some people have to have a new car or, you know, or a different car every so many years.
I'll ask for the last
And the
couple of
latest
years
and the
of tax
greatest.
returns and W-2s, so I can really figure out what is your income. And then we'll go from there and put it into a savings account, so you have the same amount, because once we have figured out really what does it cost you to live every month, this is what it costs you to live every month, then we can allocate it. And again, you know, we're gonna figure out the amount you have for 10 months, we have to spread it out over 12 months.
Right.
And that has to go into savings, so that, much like a budget plan, when you're work for public service or some of the utilities and you're on the budget plan, I usually recommend people get their average, go online and figure out what is your average, and if you can put that aside, so even if it's only $58 this month, and in the winter it's $158, you need to put that 100 aside into savings, so that when it goes back up to 200 in December or January, you can pull that up and do that. Any other questions?
Okay. Do you have a rule or a percentage of how much a mortgage should be to what, you know,
Now,
to your income, I guess?
okay, what I'm looking at, it depends on a number of things. Belinda, are you gonna talk about that?
I don't cover it a whole lot, but gosh, it really is a loaded question. There's quite a bit to it, you know, your mortgage lender's gonna approve you for no more than 43% of your gross income. You know, you have to take into consideration the debt that you have, you know, there's a lot that goes into that. That's a general.
I go from 28 to 31% of your net income, so.
Yeah, that 43 seems like a lot.
You know,
That would be
depends
all
on your
debt, not just
situation.
the housing debt.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, that's why I was
Yes.
asking.
Yeah,
just
because
the
they're gonna
house
look at your
itself.
debt to income. And typically when I'm working with someone, I'm looking at what their housing, just your mortgage, your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, between 28 and 31%. No more than 38. That's what I work with when I'm helping somebody to figure out how much they can afford. But then I send them to others because that's not, you know, my